Have you ever been stuck on a hard problem that takes up too much time and energy with nothing to show for it? What if you could quickly break it apart to make it simpler and easier to solve? This strategy helps you solve hard problems 5 times faster without overthinking it. It's so quick and easy that it feels like cheating, and yet almost no one knows about it because they've been taught how to solve problems the wrong way. If you don't learn it, you'll keep wasting time, second-guessing yourself, and missing the moment when the right move could have changed everything. Chapter 1. Why Speed Matters. Think back to the last hard problem you were faced with, and the high-stakes decision you had to make. Perhaps choosing a job, an investment, or a life change. How long did it take you to decide? Did hours, days, months go by, doing analysis and second-guessing? Now imagine knowing how to solve that hard problem 5 times faster while being confident in your choices. This is the only strategy you need to do that. We'll start with why speed matters. In today's fast-changing world, waiting too long to decide can cost you more than you realize. Every extra week spent debating is a week you could have been taking action, learning, and moving forward. Doing nothing has a cost, while momentum creates opportunity. This isn't about rushing blindly, it's about moving quickly in the right direction, with control. As the old saying goes, a good plan now is better than a perfect plan later. In other words, being 80% sure today is often better than waiting for 100% certainty when it's too late. The faster you act, the more you learn, the faster you improve, and the more you stay ahead. Here's why. Imagine 2 people working toward the same goal. One makes 26 decisions in a year, about 2 weeks per decision. The other makes 121 decisions, about 3 days each. By year's end, the faster mover has 95 more chances to test ideas, win, fail, and learn. Speed builds skill through rapid feedback, while slow decision-making often leads to missed opportunities or getting outpaced by someone more decisive. In today's world, small delays can snowball, whether it's missing a market opportunity or waiting so long that your best option disappears. The takeaway is simple. Strategic speed is a skill you can learn and train. Chapter 2. The 5x5 Framework. What exactly enables someone to solve problems 5 times faster? It comes down to following a structured, time-boxed approach. We call it the 5x5 Framework, and it has 5 phases. These phases are frame, break down, generate options, score and decide, and finally, iterate fast. Frame the problem clearly, break it down into parts, generate solution options, score and decide on the best one, then iterate fast with feedback loops. Each phase will be explained in depth in upcoming chapters. Think of it like interval training for your brain. Intense focus bursts, then move on. This doesn't mean skipping hard thinking, it means prioritizing ruthlessly and avoiding diminishing returns. For each phase, we suggest specific timing, like 2 minutes to frame a problem, 4 minutes to break it down, etc. By disciplining yourself to these timers, you'll notice an immediate uptick in momentum. Time-boxing decisions and meetings is a proven technique to get things done and battle perfectionism. It forces you to do what's possible in the time frame and move forward. Remember, speed in this context does not mean hurrying blindly, it means velocity, speed plus direction. With practice, this becomes second nature. You'll find yourself automatically framing problems clearly and whipping through options in minutes, not days. With that big picture in mind, let's talk about the speed mindset and the decision physics behind moving fast and smart. Chapter 3. Speed Mindset and Decision Physics. Moving 5 times faster requires a mindset shift. It's about being quick and controlled. Picture 2 drivers, one speeding recklessly, haste, and one skillfully navigating with high speed, velocity. We want the latter. The difference comes from understanding the physics of decision-making, feedback loops, iteration, and compounding improvements. Let's break down the key principles of the speed mindset. Velocity versus haste. Moving fast only works if you're headed in the right direction. Haste is rushing blindly. Velocity is speed with purpose. Studies show quick decision makers are often better decision makers. The key is to make small, informed choices, learn from each, and adjust, rather than waste time chasing one perfect decision. Compound interest of iteration. Every decision is part of a learning cycle. The faster you decide, the more feedback loops you complete, and the quicker you learn and grow your skills. Like interest on money, experience compounds. Each win or mistake teaches you something for the next round. Speed multiplies practice, and practice sharpens results. Cognitive bandwidth and sprints. Our brains perform best in short, focused bursts. A set deadline forces you to cut distractions, focus on what matters, and get creative with what you have. Without time limits, tasks drag on, clarity fades, and procrastination creeps in. Constraints sharpen thinking. Limited time forces priority. The two mental governors. To keep speed without sacrificing judgment, use two safeguards: satisficing and regret minimization. Satisficing means deciding on a good enough option once it meets your main criteria, instead of burning time chasing the perfect answer for tiny gains. Regret minimization means looking ahead and asking, at 80 years old, which choice will I regret not trying? This encourages bold action on paths that matter long-term and avoids safe choices that could lead to bigger regrets later. Used together, they help you stop at good enough now, knowing you can improve later, while favoring decisions that stand the test of time. With this mindset, you'll treat decisions like experiments, not final verdicts. Make the call when you have around 70% of the information, especially if it's reversible, rather than waiting for near certainty and losing momentum. Quick, small failures aren't disasters. They're data points that refine your next move. This approach turns strategy into a high-performance drive. You're fast, calibrated, and ready to break if needed. The formula is simple. Shorter cycles mean more cycles mean more learning, and more learning sharpens intuition and outcomes. Done right, speed doesn't just save time. It raises your quality bar through constant refinement. Chapter 4. Phase 1. Frame the problem quickly. You can't solve a problem quickly if you haven't clearly defined what the problem is. That's why we begin with framing. The challenge. Distill the problem and desired outcome into a concise statement, ideally 2 sentences. This will be your North Star for all subsequent steps, preventing scope creep and aimless analysis. We'll do this in about 2 minutes. Here's how. Outcome statement formula. Verb plus target plus metric plus deadline. This formula forces clarity. Start with an action verb. Specify the target or object, include a measurable metric, and set a deadline. For example, save $1,000 in an emergency fund by December 31st. Or increase online sales by 20% by Q4 end. Each element answers, what are we doing? To what? How will we measure success? By when? Crafting objectives this way makes them sharply defined. No ambiguity about success criteria or time frame. Specificity equals speed, because when you know exactly what outcome you're after, you don't waste time on tangents. Context. Snapshot. Follow the outcome statement with 1 sentence of context, naming key factors, stakeholders, constraints, and any defined success criteria or boundaries. This is essentially a quick situation brief. For the $1,000 emergency fund example, the context could be, you're working a fixed monthly income with rent and student loans taking up most of your budget. Success means saving consistently each month without using credit cards or cutting essential expenses. In 20 seconds, you outline who's involved, what limits exist, and what defines success beyond the metric. A good problem statement clearly defines the problem, the desired outcome, and identifies the context. By including these up front, you align everyone and ensure your fast solutions later are grounded in reality. It also flags any immovable constraints, so you don't waste time ideating solutions that violate them. Now, to shave minutes off framing, we use a couple of mini models. First principles thinking. After writing your initial problem statement, do a quick first principles check. First principles thinking means stripping the problem to its fundamental truths, the physics or economics beneath it. Ask, am I assuming something here that I shouldn't? What is this problem at its core? Let's say your problem is, I need to wake up earlier so I can be more productive. That sounds logical, but a first principles check challenges it. Are you truly unproductive because you wake up late? Or is the real issue that your energy is drained, your priorities are unclear, or you're distracted during the day? Once you strip it down, the core truth might be, I need more focused time each day when I feel mentally fresh and can work without distractions. Now the solution shifts. Instead of obsessing over a 5 a.m. wake up, you might protect an hour at night, take better breaks, or improve your sleep, all of which could make you just as productive. First principles thinking helps you stop solving the wrong problem and start focusing on what actually moves the needle. So, it's not about doing what sounds right, it's about doing what is right at the root level. We use it here to ensure our frame isn't built on shaky assumptions. We boil it down to fundamentals that we know to be true. Inversion. This is a trick from the mathematician Jacobi and investor Charlie Munger. Invert, always invert. Instead of asking, how do I succeed? Ask, how could I fail horribly? Take 30 seconds to imagine the worst-case failure scenario if this problem isn't solved, or if you solve it wrong. Write down a sentence describing that failure. For example, you launch the product but nobody's interested. Wasted budget, you're burned out, reputation hurt. Now use that to refine your frame. Ensure your outcome addresses the opposite of those failure points. If failure equals no one comes, success must involve attracting the right audience. If failure equals burnout, success must consider your capacity. Inversion uncovers hidden pitfalls and constraints by forcing you to confront them. It also often surfaces critical factors you might have missed. Many problems are best solved by avoiding stupidity rather than seeking brilliance. Inversion helps you list the stupid things to avoid. Incorporate those avoidances into your context when framing a problem. Next, we'll tackle Phase 2. Decompose the problem using 3 quick models to map sub-problems and find where to focus. Chapter 5. Phase 2. Breaking down problems with 3 quick models. Big problems often feel overwhelming because they're a tangle of smaller problems. The key to speed is to untangle them fast. In Phase 2, we'll break down the main problem into bite-sized pieces in just a few minutes. Our toolkit here: 3 rapid models, MECE, 80-20 pressure test, and a system snapshot. Let's break it down. 1. MECE, mutually exclusive, collectively exhaustive. This is a classic consulting technique to list components without overlaps or gaps. Think of it as drawing a quick map of all sub-problems or categories of issues. Mutually exclusive means each category is distinct. No item falls into 2 buckets. Collectively exhaustive means all items together cover the whole problem. Let's say your problem is, I never have enough time. A MECE breakdown might look like work obligations, job, meetings, side hustles, personal upkeep, errands, chores, appointments, relationships, family, friends, social commitments, well-being, sleep, exercise, downtime. Each bucket is distinct, and together they cover where your time goes. Once you see the breakdown, you can spot where to adjust. Maybe work's fine, but personal upkeep is eating more than it should. MECE helps you organize your thoughts, avoid blind spots, and make sure you're solving the full problem, not just a slice of it. Don't worry about getting the perfect breakdown. Remember, satisficing good enough. The point is to have a compass of the terrain, a clear view of the sub-areas you need to consider. This immediately prevents you from chasing the same idea twice or ignoring a whole category. It's perfect for decision-making, planning, or even just getting your life under control. 2. 80-20 pressure test. Now that you have categories, apply the Pareto principle. Which 20% of these sub-problems might drive 80% of the impact? In other words, find the vital few among the trivial many. For each bucket or component you listed, ask, if this part is fixed or improved, how big an effect does it have on the outcome? Is one category clearly the bottleneck or highest leverage? Use it as a pressure test by challenging, if I only had time to tackle one aspect, which would move the needle most? The answer directs your focus. It could be used for negative drivers too. For example, 20% of problems create 80% of delays. Find that critical segment. This doesn't mean you'll ignore everything else, but you'll allocate disproportional effort to high-impact areas. It's a huge time saver. Rather than evenly spending time on 10 sub-issues, you might spend half your time on the top one and quick minimal attention on the rest. 3A system snapshot is sometimes called a causal loop. It is a quick way to map out the chain of cause and effect between the sub-problems you've identified. Instead of looking at issues in isolation, it helps you spot second-order effects, how fixing one thing might improve or worsen another through feedback loops. You don't need a complex systems diagram, just trace one key chain of influence. For example, take the common problem, I never have enough time. A negative loop might look like this. Poor sleep leads to lowers energy, which slows down tasks at work, causing work to spill over into personal time, ultimately leaving less time for personal activities and sleep. This cycle feeds itself, making the problem worse. But loops can be positive too. For instance, setting boundaries on meetings leads to freeing up focused work time, which lets you finish tasks faster, giving you more breathing room, ultimately reinforcing boundary setting and giving you more time for personal activities. When mapping your loop, draw a few arrows linking the main elements and label whether it's reinforcing, where improvements compound over time, or balancing, where one factor increases but causes another to decrease. For example, increasing sales too quickly can strain product quality or customer support, leading to lower customer satisfaction, a balancing loop worth watching. Systems thinking keeps you from fixing one part of a problem only to unintentionally make another part worse. It helps you design solutions that tap into positive loops and avoid triggering harmful ones. Even a simple loop can tell you the real story behind your problem. After 3 to 4 minutes of breaking down the problem, you should have a short MECE list of parts, a sense of the highest impact areas among them, and an awareness of a key cause-effect dynamic in the system. All of this was done rapidly, no heavy analysis, just structured brainstorming. Let's show this with a sample complex problem. Sample problem. Reduce a city's traffic congestion by 50% in 1 year. MECE breakdown. Causes of traffic might be A. Infrastructure, like roads, signals. B. Public transport, their availability, quality. C. People driving their own cars, the behavior, car volume. D. Policy and regulation, like congestion pricing. These 4 are MECE categories for congestion causes and solutions. 80/20 focus. Perhaps data or intuition says private vehicle use is the 20% cause generating 80% of congestion. So the most impact might come from shifting those drivers to alternatives. Systems loop. One loop might be public transport quality increases, which leads to more people using it, causing private car use to drop and traffic to decrease. The feedback? As traffic eases, public transport runs more on time, improving quality further. That's a reinforcing loop. Therefore, you invest in public transit, congestion drops, which further boosts transit reliability. On the flip side, well, if too many people drive, buses get stuck too, which decreases public transit quality and pushes more people to drive. A negative loop. We're now equipped to generate targeted options rather than scattershot ideas. Breaking down the problem has given us structure. It's like outlining a puzzle. You know the main pieces and the corners to start with. In the next chapter, we'll learn how to ideate to generate options in a fast and furious way. Chapter 6. Phase 3. Generate options in 10-minute sprints. Now the fun part, ideation. With a well-framed and deconstructed problem, you can unleash creativity to find solutions. The twist is, we'll do it in time-boxed sprints, not interminable brainstorming sessions. Our mantra here, quantity over quality, at first, followed by quick filtering. Research suggests that the more ideas you generate, the higher the chance of great ideas. In fact, quantity eventually yields quality. One famous anecdote describes a pottery class. Half were graded on one perfect pot, half on total pots made. The quantity group, churning out many pots, ended up with better quality work than the perfectionists. The takeaway? Don't self-censor early. So, say we allot 10 minutes total for ideation. Use the first 7 minutes for pure idea generation. Aim for quantity over quality, and jot as many ideas or approaches as possible, even the wild or bad ones. No idea is judged during the sprint. The last 3 minutes will be for narrowing the ideas down and filtering out the bad ones. This strict division ensures you separate creating from judging. To boost your output in those 5 to 7 minutes, let's use some ideation boosters. These are mini techniques to use if you feel stuck or want to go further. SCAMPER. SCAMPER is a checklist of idea triggers. Substitute, combine, adapt, modify, put to another use, eliminate, reverse. You can scamper almost anything. For your problem, quickly run through these prompts. What could I substitute? Like use a different material, person, process. What can I combine? Merge two ideas into one. What can I adapt from somewhere else? Borrow an idea from another field. What can I modify? Change size, frequency, strength. What can I put to other use? Find new way to use existing resource. What can I eliminate? Remove something to solve it. And what can I reverse? Do the opposite of the usual. You don't have to use all 7, even 1 or 2 can spark something. For example, if the challenge is, I can't seem to save enough money to feel financially secure, SCAMPER might make you think, substitute. Could you replace an expensive habit with a lower cost alternative, like cook at home instead of takeout? Combine. Can you merge 2 expenses into one, like your office building that doubles as your gym? Adapt. Could you borrow saving techniques from another field, like fitness challenges that use daily streaks to keep people motivated? So you could adapt that by setting a no-spend streak. Modify. Can you adjust the frequency, timing, or scale of an expense, like switch from weekly to monthly shopping trips to reduce impulse buys? Put to another use. Could you take something you already have and use it to bring in extra money, like renting out unused equipment or an unused bedroom in your apartment? Eliminate. What expenses can you remove entirely without impacting your quality of life? Reverse. Instead of save what's left after spending, could you spend what's left after saving by paying yourself first? SCAMPER systematically tweaks something existing to produce something new. Use it as a mental checklist to ensure you're exploring widely. Analogy. Think of an analogy or metaphor. This problem is just like X. Finding a parallel in a different domain can yield creative solutions. For example, the invention of Velcro, for instance, came from Georges de Mestral noticing cockleburs stuck in his dog's fur and seeing the tiny hooks in the burr as an analog to a fastening system. That one analogy, burrs equal hooks, birthed a multi-million-dollar invention. Ask, what else works like this? Or, who else has solved a similar structural problem? Analogies free you from your domain's constraints and let you borrow solutions from elsewhere. Jot at least one idea that's a lifted concept from another field. It's a proven path to innovation. Constraint flip. Take a constraint you're facing and flip it on its head to see what ideas emerge. For example, if the rule is projects must be done in 3 months, imagine if you only had 1 week. What would you do? Alternatively, if a constraint is low budget, imagine unlimited budget. What could you do? This mental flip can either spark a radically creative approach that you then scale to reality, or highlight hidden opportunities. Sometimes intentionally add a constraint for creativity. For example, what if we couldn't use money at all? How else might we achieve this? Or, if I had to solve it with only existing staff, no hires, what would I do? Use extreme scenarios to jog your thinking. 0 resources or conversely magic wand. Even though these are hypothetical, they often produce new ideas you can then adapt back to your actual constraints. Employ these boosters as needed. Typically, you'd write ideas in quick phrases or bullets as they come. Don't stop to elaborate much. Volume is the goal for now. If working with a team, everyone could write ideas on sticky notes or a shared doc silently to avoid anchoring on one person's ideas, then pool them. Rapid grouping and filtering. When the time's up for idea generation, you might have a messy list of, say, 20 ideas. Now we narrow things down. First, do a quick grouping. If some ideas are similar or can combine, cluster them. You might label clusters like automation ideas, incentive ideas, etc. This simplifies what you have to evaluate. You can do clustering in 1 minute just by circling related ones or moving sticky notes together. Next, apply a no, maybe, yes filter. Go through each idea or cluster and assign it to one of 3 buckets. Number. Clearly not feasible, violates constraints, or not aligned with your outcome. Also include duplicates here. Be somewhat ruthless. If an idea doesn't excite you or seems off after initial enthusiasm, drop it. Don't delete permanently, just set aside, but we won't focus on them now. Maybe could work, but needs more info or middle-of-the-road ideas. You aren't sure yet, or it's okay, but not amazing. Yes, the ideas that spark excitement or intuitively feel high potential. Aim to trim the list rapidly. The result after about 10 total minutes. A handful promising solution options in your yes bucket. You've effectively generated an idea funnel. Lots of raw ideas in, a few strong contenders out, all in a tight time frame. And thanks to the prior phases, frame and breaking down the problem, these ideas are likely targeted and relevant, not wild off-base suggestions. We've successfully avoided analysis paralysis. Now, with a short list of solution options, it's time to evaluate them intelligently. That's phase 4. We'll score and decide on the best option using a simple rubric, again with speed and rigor, to ensure we pick not just the most popular idea, but the one with the highest impact for effort. Let's move on to making the choice. Chapter 7, Phase 4, Score and Pick. At this stage, you'd likely have a few promising options on the table. Phase 4 is about selecting the best one to execute, and doing it fast, with confidence. Rather than going purely on gut feeling or endless pro-con lists, we'll use a quick 5-point rubric to score the options. This rubric ensures you consider the most important factors of a solution: impact, effort, risk, reversibility, learning surface. We'll explain each, then show how to weigh and decide. The whole process can be done in just a few minutes per option, because you're essentially giving each a 1 to 5 score on these factors, then adding up to see which shines. This beats gut feel especially when time is short, and acts as a final quality filter before you commit. The 5 rubric axes. For each option, ask, what is the impact? If this option works, how much does it move the needle on our outcome? Does it achieve a big chunk of the goal or just a small improvement? Score 5 for options that would likely deliver a huge impact or even exceed the target. Score 1 for options with minimal impact. Nice to have but wouldn't make a dent. For example, in traffic reduction, a congestion pricing policy might have massive impact. Score 5, whereas launching a commuter newsletter might only marginally help. Score 1 or 2. What is the effort or cost? What's the level of effort, resources, or time required? Low effort. Quick win, cheap, few hours of work. Scores 5, meaning favorable on our scale. You can also invert scoring, but let's say 5 equals low effort is good. High effort. Massive project, expensive, months of work. Scores 1. We want high impact, low effort ideally. Sometimes you might break effort into subscores like cost, time, complexity. But to keep it simple, blend these into one judgment of how hard is it to do? What is the risk? How risky or uncertain is the outcome? Does this option have a high chance of failure or serious side effects? A low-risk, well-proven approach gets a 5, safe bet. A high-risk approach, many unknowns could backfire, gets a 1. Include in risk both the probability of not succeeding and the consequences if it fails. For instance, an idea that might work, but if it fails, you lose a ton of money, is high risk. Conversely, a modest idea that likely will work as expected is low risk. In fast decision scenarios, you often favor lower risk unless the high risk comes with extraordinarily high reward, and you can afford a failure. Remember, we aim to make informed bets. This scoring makes risk explicit rather than a vague worry. What is the reversibility? If we go with this and it turns out poor, how easily can we revert or pivot? In Jeff Bezos' terms, is it a one-way door or two-way door? A highly reversible decision. You can undo it or stop it without much pain. Scores 5. An irreversible or hard-to-change commitment. Once done, you're stuck, or the cost to change is huge. Scores 1. For example, testing a new marketing campaign for 2 weeks is reversible. You can pause or tweak it if results are poor. But rebranding your entire company around that campaign's message is largely irreversible in the short term, because changing back would be costly, confusing for customers, and time-consuming. Reversibility matters because it reduces risk. A bold idea that's reversible is often worth testing. Skilled strategists keep options open so they can pivot quickly if needed. What is the learning surface? Consider how much learning or new information executing this option will generate, especially if you're uncertain. An option that is an experiment yielding valuable data, even if it fails, you learn a lot, scores high. If an option, win or lose, teaches you nothing new, you already know the outcome, or it doesn't produce insight, score it lower. Why include this? Because in fast iteration, an option that generates knowledge has added value. It improves future cycles. Score 5 for an option that's like a rich experiment. 1 for one that's a shot in the dark with no feedback, or an obvious thing that confirms what you know. Now you can quickly score each option 1 to 5 on each axis. Weighting. Not all factors are equal. You might implicitly weigh impact and effort above others. Commonly, impact and effort are most important, essentially an ROI. If so, you can double their weight, giving impact and effort weight 2x while giving others 1x. Or simply keep in mind that an option with slightly lower impact might be outweighed by much lower effort, etc. The beauty is this quantitative-ish approach forces clarity over pure gut. Your intuition is still involved in scoring, but you're dissecting the intuition across key criteria rather than an all things considered hunch. Decision science shows that simple scoring models can outperform human intuition when time is short and information incomplete. It's a quick sanity check. For example, let's use our traffic example again. We consider the following: A. Congestion charge. B. Dedicated bus lanes. C. Carpool app. We might score out of 5 each. A. Congestion charge. Impact scores a 5 because could reduce a lot of cars. Effort scores a 3. Needs political will and tech, therefore. It takes moderate effort. Risk scores a 3 because risk of public pushback, but technically proven in other cities. Reversibility scores a 4. It can be piloted or adjusted easily. Learning scores 4 because there's opportunity to learn traffic demand. This tallies to 19 points. B. Bus lanes. Impact scores a 4 because it improves transit and may reduce some cars. Effort scores a 4, just requires paint and enforcement. It's relatively easy. Risk scores a 4 because it is low risk and a common solution. Reversibility scores a 5. Can always remove lanes or adjust times. And learning scores a 3. Not much new learned except confirming faster buses. This tallies to 20 points. C. Carpool app. Impact scores a 2. It depends on many adopting, which is uncertain. Effort scores a 2 because it would take tech build and user adoption effort. Risk scores a 2. It could flop if people don't use. Money spent. Reversibility a 5 because if it fails, just stop promoting it. Minimal city impact. And lastly, learning scores a 2. You'd learn a bit about commuter interest, but not broad solution. This totals 13 points. By this rough scoring, option B, the bus lane idea is most favorable. Option A, the congestion charge, is second best, so you'd likely choose a combination of A and B, or at least B as a starting move. The scoring made it evident that C, the carpool app idea, while shiny tech sounding, is actually weak on impact and high uncertainty. A risky low-impact move. Meanwhile, bus lanes are low risk, relatively high impact, quick win. Beyond the scoring, we should do quick decision hygiene. 2 super fast exercises to double-check our choice. First, a 60-second premortem. Imagine it's a few months later, and this chosen solution failed. Jot 1 to 2 reasons why. Gary Klein's premortem method helps uncover risks we might overlook. For instance, our bus lane plan failed because we didn't enforce it, and cars kept using them, causing public cynicism. That reveals a risk. We better plan enforcement. A premortem basically asks, why could this decision go wrong? And by surfacing those, you can mitigate them now. Second, do a devil's advocate pass. Spend 30 seconds arguing against your chosen idea. The goal is not to derail the decision, but to ensure you're not in a groupthink bubble. For example, officials might say, bus lanes only help if buses aren't stuck at other points. What if it shifts congestion elsewhere? This challenge can refine your plan, maybe coordinate traffic signals for buses too. Devil's advocacy is a classic red team move to improve resilience of decisions. By now, you've selected an option and pre-thought some failure points and counters. Now it is time for you to commit. Make the decision official and create some accountability. We've now gone from a problem to a chosen solution in remarkably little time. To recap Phase 4, we scored options to choose wisely under pressure. We did a pre-mortem and devil's advocate check to cover blind spots, and we committed, keeping ourselves accountable to propel us into action. The strategy is set, but we're not done. In a fast framework, execution isn't the end. It's the beginning of the next loop. Phase 5 will ensure that within 24 hours of executing, you're gathering feedback and iterating. That's how you truly achieve 5 times speed. Not just a fast decision, but fast adjustments after the decision. Chapter 8, Phase 5, 24-hour feedback loop and iteration. Phase 5 is what makes this whole approach truly iterative and resilient. Establishing a rapid feedback loop so you can learn and adjust within 24 hours, or whatever short cycle is appropriate. We borrow from military strategist John Boyd's famous OODA loop: observe, orient, decide, act. The idea is that your strategy isn't static. Here's how to implement OODA loop on a short basis. Observe. Within the first 24 hours of executing your decision, or whatever short cycle is appropriate, gather observations. What happened? What results or signals are coming in? If it's a project plan, maybe you check the next day if tasks have started smoothly. If it's a policy change, observe initial reactions or data changes. The key is to have measurable signals defined. This goes back to our outcome metrics. You should start logging data immediately. For example, if our goal was traffic reduction and we implemented bus lanes, day 1 observation could be bus travel times. Did they improve? Or traffic volume on those roads? Did cars divert? Data capture checklist. Determine what to log and what to ignore. Focus on actionable metrics, not vanity metrics. Vanity metrics are numbers that might look good but don't inform decisions. Actionable metrics tie to your goals and you can do something about them. In our case, actionable might be average bus speed or commute times, whereas a vanity metric might be something like number of social media likes on the announcement. Nice, but doesn't directly validate success. Set up a simple way to log the key few metrics. Also note qualitative feedback. People are tweeting complaints or team morale seems up today. Observing is about paying attention to reality. The faster you get reality's feedback, the faster you can adapt. Orient. This step means interpret the data and put it in context. End of day 1, take a moment to ask, what is this telling us? Is it working? Any surprises? Compare to your expected outcome. If bus speeds improved 20%, great, on track. If nothing changed or got worse, that's a red flag to investigate. Orientation also means updating your mental model. Perhaps you learn that one bottleneck is moved elsewhere. Okay, orient to that new reality. Problems move to location X. Keep your situational awareness. The daily pulse of OODA keeps you from drifting off course. Many plans fail because after the decision, people go on autopilot until it's too late. Not us, we're checking early and often. It's like a pilot checking instruments right after takeoff to ensure correct heading. Decide, adjust. Based on orientation, decide on any course correction immediately. If day 1 feedback is positive, you might decide to double down. For example, expand the bus lane hours or communicate the initial win to stakeholders to build support. If feedback is negative or unexpected, decide on a tweak. Maybe cars are now clogging side streets. Decide to adjust signal timings or deploy traffic cops there. The point is, don't wait. Agile methodologies call this inspect and adapt. By having a decision loop daily, you avoid small problems compounding. It turns big course corrections into tiny ones. Your initial strategy was not meant to be static. You're allowed to iterate it. You become that fast feedback entity. If something's off, you catch and fix it. Act. This is essentially implementing the above decision. It folds right back into execution. So day 2, you implement the tweak or continue as adjusted, and the loop continues. Observe again, orient, etc. Minimum viable action. Always think in terms of small tests and iterations, not one huge rollout. This aligns with lean startup thinking. Ship a test, not a thesis. Rather than spending months on a perfect plan, you launch a mini version quickly to get data. Choose a solution and treat it somewhat as an experiment. If your decision was bigger than a day's implement, still you can create intermediate outputs to test. For instance, if launching a product in 3 months, have a prototype or landing page up in 1 week to gauge interest, a minimum viable product to test assumptions. Ship something small as fast as possible. Even if it's not the final, it will yield learning. This prevents analysis paralysis post-decision, where you may sometimes stall on execution because you fear getting it wrong. Remember, the goal is cutting decision and solution time by 5 times. Now it's time to close the loop. After a few iterations of daily or weekly, depending on context, using the OODA loop, you'll start seeing solid results or clear need for pivot. Either way, ensure to celebrate signals of success. When you hit a milestone or see improvement, acknowledge it. This gives morale boost and reinforces the speed culture. By mastering this quick feedback loop, you can achieve a lot in less time. That is a huge factor in achieving 5 times speed. You're not waiting until the end to evaluate. You're always evaluating, always iterating. At this point, we have covered all 5 phases of the framework. Now let's walk through an example case in real time, applying everything from framing to iterating, and see how it all flows together swiftly. Chapter 9. A case study example. To show how all these phases come together, let's walk through a real-world strategic challenge in a fast-forward way. We'll choose a scenario relatable to many listeners, deciding whether to launch a side business while working a full-time job, and if so, how to do it quickly and successfully. We'll follow Mark, an average professional, as he uses the 5-by framework to go from problem to action quickly. Imagine this process happening perhaps over a day or two, rather than weeks of indecision. Mark starts by framing the challenge in 2 sentences. It took friends of Mark's months of debate on if they should start a business. He aims for much faster. Outcome statement. Launch a test version of my online design shop and make 5 sales within the first month. Context snapshot. I'll build it solo with a $500 budget, only evenings and weekends. Without harming my day job performance, success means a profitable MVP without burnout. Mark writes this down in about 2 minutes. Already there's clarity. The goal isn't a fully mature business, just a launch test making 5 sales, verb plus target, plus metric, plus deadline. Constraints like budget and time are clear, and we've acknowledged needing to avoid burnout. That came from an inversion thought. Failure would be getting exhausted or job fired, so context includes not harming day job. Mark also used first principles to ensure the goal is concrete. Sales, not just launch website. We now have a focused mission to solve, get an MVP shop up, and get 5 sales in month 1. Next, he breaks down the problem. In about 4 minutes, Mark lists major components using the MECE framework. These are product, what to sell, platform, website or marketplace, marketing, how to get customers, and operations, fulfillment, shipping. It appears comprehensive and non-overlapping. Then Alex does an 80-20. Which of these will drive success or could cause failure? He figures marketing is critical. Without traffic, no sales. That's likely the 20% task for 80% outcome. So he stars marketing and promotion as top focus, and second priority platform must choose a quick setup. Next, he sketches a quick systems loop. If marketing, say social media posts, drives traffic, then traffic leads to some sales, and sales give feedback and word of mouth, which can drive more traffic. It's a reinforcing loop. He also notes a potential balancing loop. If orders exceed his evening time capacity, fulfillment might lag, harming customer reviews, which could hurt marketing. So he spots a risk. If it goes too well, time becomes an issue. A nice problem, but still. With these in mind, Mark decides the strategy must heavily address marketing channels, but also keep initial volume manageable, maybe limit orders or start pre-orders. This took under 5 minutes total. Mark sets a 7-minute timer for an idea sprint to generate options. He brainstorms how to achieve those 5 sales quickly. Focusing on marketing and platform primarily, he writes down ideas. Marketing options. Promote on Instagram design community. Use Etsy Marketplace for built-in traffic. Offer a limited time discount to friends. family to seed sales, partner with a small influencer for shoutout, run $100 Facebook ads, post in relevant forums or subreddits, etc. These came via thinking, where are my potential customers? Platform options. Launch on Etsy or Shopify, use print-on-demand service with their marketplace, just use Instagram DMs for orders initially, no formal site. Here Mark applied SCAMPER on the concept of an online shop. For example, he could substitute formal website with a simple order form to save time. Product options. Sell t-shirts with my designs, sell digital prints, offer custom design service, etc. He jots a few, but since product wasn't the main issue, doesn't dwell too long. Other. Ask 3 friends to share with their networks. Attend next weekend's local craft fair with samples. By minute 13, Alex has maybe 15 ideas scribbled. He quickly groups them. Online marketplace ideas versus own site versus in-person. Also, free marketing, social influencer versus paid ads versus personal network. Now for rapid filtering, he crosses out a few no ideas, like doing a local craft fair since it doesn't align with online quick launch and cost time, and building a full Shopify site because it feels like too much upfront effort. He circles Etsy Marketplace as a yes, easy setup, existing audience. Instagram promotion as a yes, he has some followers in design community, and friends and family sale as a maybe. Low scale, but could quickly get first sales and testimonials. Paid Facebook ads he marks maybe. Could work, but $100 might not yield 5 sales if not targeted well. The partnership with an influencer, maybe as it depends on finding a quality one quickly. Now he's essentially chosen a likely solution approach. Open an Etsy store, promote through Instagram and personal network. That combination should reasonably hit 5 sales fast with minimal cost. Mark mentally scores his combined approach to double-check. Impact seems high. If 100 people see his designs, likely 5 will buy, so impact 5. Effort, low-medium. Etsy setup maybe a few hours. Making Instagram posts is quick, so the effort is a 4. Risk, low. Costs almost nothing except 20 cents per Etsy listing. And if it fails, he loses maybe a few hours and some pride. So risk is a 4. Reversibility, high. He can close the Etsy store or scale down anytime. No big commitments. That's scored a 5. Learning, very high. He'll see which designs people like and learn if pricing is right. That's a 5. The rubric total is approximately 23 out of 25, which feels solid. Another option like build your own site and run ads would have scored lower. So he's confident in the Etsy plus IG plan. Quick premortem. Imagine it's a month later and I sold nothing. Why? He thinks maybe his designs were off target or his marketing posts were not reaching people. That suggests he should test multiple designs and perhaps engage more on Instagram than just one post. Also, maybe pricing too high could kill sales. He'll be mindful to price attractively at first. Devil's advocate. He asks a friend to play this role for 1 minute. Friend says, many Etsy shops get lost in the crowd. How will yours stand out? Good point. Mark decides to emphasize his personal story in the shop description and perhaps use his network to drive initial traffic to Etsy. With those tweaks, Mark feels good. He commits. Within the first evening, Alex sets up the Etsy store, uploads 3 designs, sets prices. He also posts sneak peeks on Instagram that night. By the next day, 24 hours in, he observes, the Instagram post got 50 likes and 5 comments. Etsy stats showed 20 views, 2 favorites, but no sales yet. Orient. This is about what he expected on day 1. Interest, but people may be waiting for a direct ask to buy. On surprise. One of the designs got all the Etsy favorites, the others none, indicating that design is more popular. Decide, adjust. Mark decides to feature that popular design more prominently, maybe make it the first image and thumbnail, and perhaps lower the price on the one not getting attention. It might be priced too high for perceived value. He also realizes maybe he should directly announce, now open for orders, rather than just sneak peeks. Act. He quickly updates the Etsy listing order, drops one price by 10%, and posts an Instagram story. My Etsy shop is live. First 5 orders get 20% off, link in bio. By day 2, orders start coming. 3 orders, including 1 from a friend due to the personal network outreach, and 2 from strangers on Etsy who saw the limited time sale. Alex observes this, orients that the combo of a sale plus direct ask worked. He decides to keep that sale until he hits 5 orders. On day 3, 2 more orders roll in, 1 via Instagram follower, 1 more from Etsy search. He hits the goal within 72 hours of starting the process. Normally, launching a side business might have taken him months of contemplation and weeks of building. Using the 5x5 framework, he went from idea to first revenue in a matter of days. Throughout, we highlighted the elapsed times at key steps. Framing done in 2 minutes, breaking down the problem in 4 minutes, ideation in 7, decision in maybe 5, and then execution with daily tweaks. The entire initial strategy was formulated in under 30 minutes. Execution, of course, took a couple days of work, but the key is the decision-making and iteration were extremely compressed. Mark didn't spend weeks trying to perfect his website or questioning if Etsy was the right choice. He picked a viable path and ran with it, course correcting as needed. This case shows one can compress what often is a long, agonizing decision. Should I do this business? How to do it? Into a rapid series of actions with feedback. Note that by moving fast, Mark also learned fast. Within days, he knows which designs are hits, what marketing messaging works, and has real customers. That's compounding learning in action, which will pay off for next steps. Maybe now he invests a bit more in advertising, knowing his conversion rate, etc. For you, the listener, think of Mark's story and map it to your challenge. Whether it's a career pivot, a project at work, or a personal goal like planning a wedding or solving a relationship issue. The steps would be analogous. Frame the goal, break it down, brainstorm solutions, pick one quickly with a rubric, then implement and iterate daily. By doing it in a live, time-stamped way, you prove to yourself that 5 times faster isn't just a slogan, it's tangible. We've now seen the framework in motion. To ensure you succeed in replicating this, let's cover common pitfalls that could slow you down and how to avoid them. Speed is great, but we must also be wary of the typical speed killers. Chapter 10: Speed Killers and Common Pitfalls. Even with the best framework, there are common pitfalls that can derail fast decision-making. Let's identify these speed killers and how to counteract them. Analysis paralysis. When you have too much information or too many choices, it's easy to freeze and do nothing. This can happen when you're aiming for perfection, scared to make the wrong move, or just overwhelmed. The fix: cut down your options, set a time limit, and decide when something is good enough so you can move forward. The illusion of precision. Waiting for perfect information slows you down, and the extra facts often don't change your choice. Acting on a good 80% plan now usually beats a perfect plan later. Decide what's enough to act before you start, test small, and be ready to adjust as you go. Don't let the hunt for perfect certainty keep you stuck. Team drag. Working with others can slow things down when goals aren't aligned, someone has hidden power to block the plan, or there are too many meetings. Get everyone on the same page, include decision makers early, and let smaller groups handle less critical calls. Keep meetings short, focused, and only when needed. Build a culture where quick, reasonable decisions are valued, and where it's safe to change course if something doesn't work. One more pitfall: not setting timers or benchmarks at all. If you don't set a deadline, you'll revert to normal speed. So continue to time box decisions routinely. It keeps the muscle strong. If something took you 5 days before, challenge yourself, can I do it in 1 day now? Finally, guard against burnout. Going fast doesn't mean working frantically 24/7. It means efficient use of time. It's sustainable because you cut waste. If you find yourself constantly firefighting due to speed, check if it's because you skipped phase 1 framing or phase 5 iterating. Sometimes rework is mistaken as a result of moving too fast, when actually it's because the initial aim was unclear or feedback was ignored. Follow the process and speed stays sustainable. With these pitfalls in check, you're much less likely to crash and burn. Instead, you'll navigate at high velocity with control. Lastly, let's re-inspire you to put this into practice immediately, to benchmark yourself again and charge forward. Let's wrap up with that closing charge. Chapter 11, Closing Takeaway. Take a moment to recall that initial self-test, the last high-stakes decision you reflected on at the start. How long did it take? Now, armed with this 5 times faster framework, re-benchmark yourself. I invite you to pick your next mission, maybe a decision looming this week or a project you're about to start. Challenge yourself and think, can I solve that in 1/5 the time it would normally take? The promise we made at the outset was that you would solve hard problems 5 times faster. By following along, you've seen how each phase contributes to that. Remember to frame the problem in 2 sentences, clearly define the outcome, verb plus target plus metric plus deadline, and context. Break the problem into distinct parts, identify the high-impact 20%, and map key cause-effect loops to spot leverage points and risks. In a short, timed sprint, produce as many ideas as possible using creativity boosters, then quickly group and filter to a shortlist. Then score and decide. Use the 5-point rubric, impact, effort, risk, reversibility, learning, to choose fast, run a quick premortem and devil's advocate check, and commit. Lastly, you want to iterate fast. Launch quickly, set a 24-hour feedback loop using the OODA loop, track only actionable metrics, and refine or pivot rapidly. If you apply these steps, you truly will move much faster, and not at the expense of quality, but with improved quality due to iterative refinement. Think of strategy now not as a ponderous yearly plan set in stone, but as a dynamic speed run. You can be a strategy speedrunner. The alternative is the marathon mindset, running along thinking more time equals better results, while the world changes around you. As we've discussed, today's environment rewards agility. The good news, you now have a playbook to be agile intentionally. If you found this guide helpful, imagine how it could transform a friend of yours. I encourage you to share these concepts with others. Nothing cements a habit like teaching it. Make sure to subscribe to this channel and let me know in comments your success stories. I love hearing how these strategies work in the real world.